Welcome to Read and Learn English. Take a deep breath. Listen not just with your ears, but with your mind. Because today we begin a quiet journey, a journey from noise to clarity, from weakness to strength, from comfort to control. Look around your life for a moment. There is sound everywhere. Phones buzzing, people talking, screens flashing. The world moves fast, and we try to keep up. But sometimes, don't you feel tired? Not in your body, but in your mind? That kind of tired is not from work. It's from distraction. It's from living every day without direction. We chase comfort, a soft bed, a sweet taste, a few more minutes of rest. Comfort feels good for a while, but slowly it steals our power. It makes the mind lazy, soft, and afraid of effort. When life gets difficult, comfort tells us, "Stop, you've done enough." And we listen, because comfort is easy. But monks live differently. They wake early. They move slowly. They speak little. Yet their eyes are clear and strong. They do not run away from pain. They do not depend on pleasure. They walk in balance, not controlled by the world, but guided by purpose. Their secret is not in silence or prayer alone. Their secret is self-discipline, the art of mastering the mind. They train the mind like a muscle, one breath, one thought, one choice at a time. And because of that, they find something modern life has forgotten: peace. You and I, we don't live in a monastery. We live in cities, in noise, in endless movement. But the same strength, the same calm, lives inside us too. It's waiting, behind the noise, behind the habits, behind the excuses. So as you listen, don't just learn new English words, learn new ways of thinking. Feel every sentence. Let every idea touch your life. Because this story is not about monks in the mountains. It's about you, the quiet warrior inside you who is ready to rise. And before we go deeper, ask yourself, what if you could learn to control your mind like a monk? Let's find out why it's so difficult and so necessary in the restless world we live in today. The restless world. Every morning begins with good intentions. You tell yourself, "Today, I'll wake up early." You silence the alarm, close your eyes for just 5 more minutes, and when you open them again, an hour is gone. You rush, you hurry, you start the day already behind. And deep inside, a small voice whispers, "Why can't I control myself?" This voice is familiar. It speaks every time you make a promise you don't keep. Every time you say, "I'll start tomorrow," but tomorrow never comes. Every time you plan to study, but somehow end up scrolling through endless screens, chasing nothing. It's not that you don't care. You do. You want to grow, to be focused, to live with purpose. But the world around you is not built for discipline. It is built for distraction. Think about it. Everywhere you look, something calls for your attention. Bright colors, fast videos, quick laughs. We live in a world that rewards speed, not depth. You can get food in minutes, music in seconds, comfort in a single click. And slowly, the mind begins to believe that everything in life should be easy, instant, and pleasant. When it isn't, we feel lost. We call it stress, but often it's simply the pain of being out of control. Comfort has become our invisible teacher, and it teaches us weakness. It says, "Avoid hard things." It says, "You deserve a break." And so we rest, even when we haven't truly worked. We eat not because we're hungry, but because we're bored. We scroll not because we care, but because we can't sit still. The truth is simple and painful. Most people are not tired because they work too much. They're tired because they think too much, want too much, and move without meaning. Our energy leaks through small cracks, wasted minutes, broken focus, half-done dreams. And yet, inside each of us, there's another kind of desire, quiet, powerful, and ancient. It's the desire to master yourself. You can feel it when you do something difficult, when you finally finish a task, when you resist temptation, when you wake up even though you want to sleep. That tiny spark of pride, that whisper that says, "I did it." That is strength. That is self-respect being born. But modern life hides that feeling behind layers of noise. It tells us to enjoy life, but never explains that real joy doesn't come from escape. It comes from effort. The sweetness of rest only feels real when it follows work. The light of peace only shines after struggle. Discipline sounds hard, but chaos is harder. When you live without order, every small thing becomes a battle. You argue with your alarm clock, your hunger, your schedule, your own mind. Without structure, every day repeats the same pattern. Hope in the morning, guilt at night, and we mistake freedom for doing whatever we want. But that kind of freedom often becomes a prison, a life ruled by impulse. True freedom is not the absence of rules. It's the power to choose the right rule for yourself and to live by it. Imagine two kinds of people. One chases comfort, running from one pleasure to another, always restless, always unsatisfied. The other wakes with purpose, follows a rhythm, stays calm when others rush. The first one lives easy but empty days. The second lives simple but powerful ones. Which one do you want to be? You already know the answer. You've felt that deep pull inside you, the wish to be calm, strong, and clear. It's not impossible. It's just hidden under habits that keep you numb. So take a moment now. Look at your own life. Where does your energy go? What steals your focus? When do you say, "Just one more minute," and lose an hour? You don't need to feel ashamed. You only need to see. Awareness is the first step to control. And once you see the truth that the restless world is shaping your mind, you can begin to reshape it. You can build small moments of silence, small acts of control. That is where discipline begins. Because in another world, quiet, simple, and slow, people train their minds like warriors. Let's go there. The monastic path. High above the restless cities, where the air grows thin and clear, there stands a quiet monastery. No cars, no screens, no voices rushing to be heard. Only the sound of wind touching stone and bells that ring softly through the cold morning air. The monks rise before the sun. Their day begins not with noise but with stillness. No one tells them to hurry. There is no alarm clock, no list of unfinished tasks waiting to chase them. Only the rhythm of life itself, simple, gentle, unbroken. They walk slowly, as if every step matters. Their robes move with the wind. Their faces carry a calm that feels unfamiliar to modern eyes, a calm not made of happiness, but of harmony. When they eat, they chew slowly, tasting each bite. When they speak, they choose words as carefully as if they were laying stones in a sacred path. This is not laziness, it is attention. It is a way of living that says nothing is small if it is done with full presence. Imagine for a moment, no phone, no news, no messages waiting. Just you, your breath, your body, your thoughts. Could you stand the silence? Most people would not last an hour. Because silence is not empty, it is full of the noise inside your own head. That is why the monastery feels so different. It is not just quiet on the outside, it is quiet on the inside. The monks have learned to face the inner noise that most people run from. They don't fight it, they don't drown it with distraction. They observe it. They let it pass. And in that stillness, the mind becomes clear, like water settling after a storm. The mountain monastery is not a place of escape. It is a mirror. Every sound, every moment reflects the truth that most of us forget. Peace is not found in comfort. It is created through clarity. Down in the cities, people run faster every year, chasing money, chasing meaning, chasing time itself. But up here, time moves differently. The sun rises, the birds sing, and everything feels connected. You begin to understand that nature has discipline too. The sun never forgets to rise. The river never refuses to flow. And the monks, like nature, follow their rhythm, steady, balanced, alive. The monastery teaches through its silence. There are no speeches, no long lessons, no loud commands. The teaching is in the doing, sweeping the floor, washing the bowl, bowing before entering a room. Each small act becomes a practice of awareness. At first, it may seem like control, rules, routines, rituals, but after some time, you begin to see the truth. This discipline is not control from outside. It is freedom from inside. The monks are not slaves to a schedule. They are free from chaos. The order of their life creates space for peace to grow. Think about it. In our world, freedom often means doing whatever I want. But that kind of freedom often brings noise, confusion, and regret. The monk's freedom is different. It means, I have trained my mind so well that it obeys me. They do not chase desire, they direct it. They do not fight their thoughts, they understand them. Their faces tell the story. Soft eyes, peaceful smiles, no rush to prove, no need to escape. Their hearts beat at the same pace as the day, slow, steady, disciplined. In the monastery, everything has meaning, even the sound of a bell. When it rings, it calls the monks not to work, not to rest, but to return, to themselves, to awareness, to the present moment. And that is the lesson they live each day. Come back again and again to what is real. The beauty of this way of life is not in the silence alone. It's in what the silence reveals, that the mind can be your master or your servant. When it is untrained, it drags you everywhere. When it is disciplined, it becomes your greatest ally. In the stillness of the mountain, you begin to feel something awaken inside you. A deep longing for simplicity. You realize that peace is not about escaping the world, but about living differently within it. To move slower, to listen deeper, to be fully here. As the monks sweep the courtyard, the dust rises and falls. The air smells of earth and tea. The morning light turns golden, and for a moment, the world feels perfectly ordered, inside and out. You understand now. Discipline is not a punishment. It is a path to freedom. It is how the mind learns to rest. And so, as we continue this journey, remember this image, a calm face, a steady breath, a silent bell echoing through the mountains. Because the monk's first secret is not a mystery at all. It begins with something simple, something powerful. It begins with routine. Lesson 1. The power of routine. Every great change begins with something small. Not a big decision, not a dramatic moment, just a simple act, repeated every day until it becomes part of who you are. In the monastery, Life is built on rhythm. The monks rise before the sun, always at the same hour. The sound of the bell is gentle but firm, calling each of them from sleep to stillness. They fold their blankets neatly, clean their rooms, and step into the morning air. No one complains, no one asks, "Why so early?" They know that discipline begins long before the day does. When they clean, they do not rush. Every movement has purpose. A hand wipes the table slowly. A broom moves carefully across the floor. There is no need for music or distraction. The sound of sweeping is music enough. The act of cleaning becomes a quiet lesson. When your space is clear, your mind becomes clear too. The same rhythm continues throughout the day: study, work, meditation, rest. Each activity begins and ends with a bell. The hours feel like waves, rising and falling in balance. And within that order, something powerful happens. Peace begins to take root. Most people think routine kills freedom. They say, "I don't want every day to be the same." But the truth is the opposite. When your life has no structure, you waste time deciding what to do next. When your habits are steady, your mind becomes free. Free from confusion, free from guilt, free from noise. Routine doesn't take away life's color. It removes the chaos that hides it. Think about your own mornings. How do they begin? Do you open your eyes with purpose or with resistance? Do you reach for your phone before you reach for your thoughts? One small decision, to wake with intention, can change the feeling of your entire day. That's what monks understand. Small actions are not small at all. They are messages to the mind. When you make your bed, your mind hears, "I am ready." When you sit straight, your mind hears, "I am focused." When you breathe deeply before speaking, your mind hears, "I am calm." Each act shapes who you are becoming. The world celebrates big achievements, medals, promotions, victories, but true strength grows in quiet moments no one sees. Waking up early, finishing what you start, cleaning your space before you rest. These are invisible victories, but they build an unshakable foundation. Routine is more than a schedule. It is a mirror. It shows what you value. If your days are filled with noise and rush, your mind becomes the same. If your days follow balance and order, your mind learns harmony. Discipline is not a prison. It's a pattern that sets you free. For English learners, think of this like building language itself. You don't become fluent in one day. You repeat, you listen, you speak. Slowly, your brain connects sounds, meanings, feelings. One sentence today, another tomorrow, until one day you speak naturally. Discipline in English, discipline in life. They grow from the same root. Repetition with purpose. When you repeat a good habit long enough, it becomes identity. You no longer try to be disciplined. You are disciplined. Like the monks, you move through the day with quiet confidence. Still, building routine isn't always easy. At first, it feels boring. The mind will complain, "I already did this yesterday. I want something new." But that boredom is not truth. It's resistance. The untrained mind loves chaos because chaos keeps it in control. The moment you bring order, it rebels. That's why the monks smile when life feels repetitive. They know that each repetition strengthens the will. When you do something important even when you don't feel like it, that is real growth. The body gets tired, the mind argues, but the spirit learns, and the spirit becomes strong. Imagine your day as a garden. Every habit is a seed. Some grow into flowers, others into weeds. What you repeat becomes what you reap. A morning of focus gives birth to peace. A morning of distraction grows into chaos. Routine is how you choose which seeds to water. Even small routines, drinking water mindfully, taking 5 minutes of silence before work, ending your day with reflection, begin to change the shape of your mind. Slowly, you realize that control is not something you force. It is something you build, gently, through practice. In time, routine becomes your invisible teacher. It guides you when motivation fades. It carries you when emotions change. You no longer ask, "Should I do this?" You simply do. And in that doing, you discover freedom. Because real peace doesn't appear in random moments. It grows from repeated ones. Real success doesn't depend on talent. It depends on consistency. And real discipline doesn't mean perfection. It means persistence. So tonight, before you sleep, ask yourself one quiet question. What small action can I repeat tomorrow that will make me stronger? Start with something so simple it feels easy. A single promise, and keep it. Do it again the next day, and again, until it becomes part of you. That is how the monks build their power. One silent victory at a time. And remember, discipline begins with routine, but it does not end there. Because even when life becomes orderly, the greatest challenge still remains. The mind itself. But even with good habits, the mind will fight back. That is the next test. The inner battle. There comes a moment in every journey when the greatest enemy finally shows itself. It doesn't appear as a person. It doesn't shout. It whispers. That quiet, familiar voice in your head that says, "You're too tired. It doesn't matter today. You'll do better tomorrow." That voice sounds kind, but it is not your friend. It is the old self, the one that loves comfort more than growth and excuses more than effort. Inside the monastery, even after months of steady routine, that voice still visits the monks. It speaks when they wake up before dawn, when their bodies ache, when the air is cold and their beds feel warm. It tells them to stop, to rest a little longer, to give in. But they don't. They have learned something powerful. The enemy is not outside. It is inside. Every human being fights this same invisible war. It's the battle between what we want now and what we want most. Between the easy path and the right one. Between the comfort of the moment and the strength of the future. When you promise yourself, "I will change," the mind answers, "Why bother?" When you begin to study, it says, "I'm too tired." When you finally start to move forward, it pulls you back with fear. It tells you that you will fail, that you don't have enough time, enough talent, enough will. And because that voice sounds like you believe it. But here's the truth the monks discovered. You are not that voice. You are the one who hears it, and the one who can choose whether to obey it or not. The untrained mind is like a wild horse, fast, strong, but without direction. It runs toward every thought, every feeling, every distraction. When fear comes, it runs away. When pleasure appears, it runs toward it. The monk's training, and your training, is to hold the reins, to guide that mind, not be dragged by it. At first it feels impossible, because the voice of weakness is clever. It doesn't fight directly, it hides behind logic. It says, "Rest now, you deserve it," or "One day won't matter." It wears the mask of kindness, but every time you listen, you lose a little more control. The monks call this voice the shadow of desire. It's the part of the mind that fears discomfort, that clings to pleasure, that wants the easy way. The more you feed it, the louder it grows. The more you challenge it, the weaker it becomes. You've heard that shadow before, when you tried to wake up early, when you tried to study, when you tried to change your life. It always arrives when discipline begins. It is the mind's way of defending its old habits. But here's the beautiful paradox. Every time you resist it, every time you do what's hard, you teach your mind a new truth. I am stronger than my thoughts. The monks practice this lesson daily. When the sun rises and the body still wants to sleep, they rise anyway. When hunger whispers, they wait. When pain appears, they breathe through it. They don't fight the feeling, they face it. They let it speak, but they do not obey. That is the essence of self-discipline. Not killing the voice, but watching it without fear. The moment you see it clearly, it loses its power. Because awareness is stronger than weakness. Let's be honest. This battle never truly ends. Even the wisest monk feels the pull of laziness or doubt. But the difference is, they no longer believe it defines them. They know the voice is part of the mind, not the whole of who they are. And you can learn the same skill. The next time your mind says, I can't, pause. Listen. Then answer gently, maybe you can't yet, but I can try. When it says, it's too hard, whisper back, that's how I grow. This is how awareness transforms the fight, not through anger, but through understanding. Because what weakens you is not the feeling of pain, it's the belief that pain means stop. The monks know pain means progress, doubt means change, discomfort means growth. Every time you choose effort over ease, you win a small battle inside yourself. You become a little stronger, a little clearer, a little freer. Imagine your mind as a battlefield. On one side stands the voice of fear, soft but persistent. On the other side stands the voice of awareness, calm and patient. The fearful voice shouts, "You can't!" Awareness doesn't shout back, it simply sees. It watches the noise rise and fall, like waves on the ocean. And slowly, the storm begins to calm. That is how the monks live. They don't try to destroy their weakness. They outgrow it. They don't fight the darkness. They light a candle and watch it fade. So, when you feel the struggle, when laziness pulls at your will, when doubt shakes your confidence, remember, this is not failure. This is training. You are not losing the fight. You are learning to see the battlefield. Every inner battle is a chance to choose strength over surrender. And each time you choose strength, the voice inside becomes quieter, weaker, smaller, until it no longer controls you. The monks have a saying, the mind is a servant, not a master. Train it, or it will train you. Those words carry a truth for every human being who has ever wanted to grow. And now that you have seen this battle for what it is, the question becomes, how do you win it fully? To win the battle inside, the monks use a quiet weapon, silence. The discipline of silence. Most people fear silence. They fill every empty space with sound, music, messages, voices, noise. Silence makes them uncomfortable, as if quiet is a sign that something is wrong. But the monks know something deeper. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is strength. In the monastery, there are long hours of wordless peace, no conversations, no arguments, only the sound of breathing, footsteps, wind. The monks sit cross-legged, eyes lowered, back straight. They do nothing. At least, that's how it looks from the outside. But inside, Something powerful is happening. They are watching their minds. Thoughts come and thoughts go, like clouds drifting across the sky. The monks do not chase them, and they do not run from them. They simply notice. One thought says, "I'm bored." Another says, "I should be doing more." Another whispers, "This is useless." And each time, the monk smiles inside and lets it pass. Because every thought, no matter how loud, is just a visitor. Silence becomes their teacher. It shows them how wild the mind really is. It jumps from one idea to another, like a bird with no nest. It creates stories, memories, worries, and dreams. And in that endless chatter, most people lose themselves. But the monk, through silence, learns to listen without believing, to watch without reacting. At first, silence feels heavy. It brings everything you've been avoiding to the surface, the regrets, the fears, the unfinished thoughts. But if you stay with it long enough, you begin to see something amazing. Behind all the noise, there is peace. It was always there, hidden beneath the constant talking of the mind. That's why silence is a discipline. It is not about turning off the world. It's about turning toward yourself. It's learning to sit with your own presence, without distraction, without judgment, without escape. Imagine sitting quietly right now. No phone, no music, no noise, just you and your breath. At first, it's strange. Your body wants to move. Your mind wants to wander. But then, slowly, something changes. You begin to notice small details, the sound of your heartbeat, the rhythm of your breath, the space between thoughts. That is the moment when awareness begins to grow. You realize you are not your thoughts. You are the observer of them. You are not the storm. You are the sky that holds it. The monks say, the quieter you become, the more you can hear. And what you begin to hear is not the world. It's yourself. Not the voice of fear or desire, but the quiet wisdom beneath it. That wisdom speaks softly. It says, you are enough. It says, you don't need to chase everything. It says, be still, and you will see. Silence also teaches patience. In a world of speed, silence slows you down. It reminds you that growth cannot be rushed. A seed does not shout to become a tree. It grows in quiet soil. The same is true for the mind. Wisdom grows when it has space to breathe. The more time you spend in silence, the more sensitive you become to noise. Not just sound, but mental noise. You begin to see how much of your day is filled with unnecessary talking, thinking, worrying. You realize how often you speak without meaning, how often you act without awareness, and you start to choose more carefully your words, your actions, your energy. For English learners listening to this, notice how the rhythm of silence even changes language. The pauses between words give them power. The slow pace helps you understand not just meaning, but feeling. This is what monks practice, speaking only when the heart is clear and listening more than they speak. In this way, silence is not the absence of sound. It is the presence of awareness. It trains you to see what is real, to stop reacting, to find peace even when life is loud. When you master silence, you no longer need the world to be quiet. Your calm becomes stronger than its noise. But silence is not always gentle. It can show you truths you've been hiding. It can make you see parts of yourself you've ignored. That's why it's called discipline. It takes courage to sit still. It takes faith to listen without running away. Yet when you finally surrender to silence, you stop fighting your mind, and that is when understanding begins. You see that every thought, emotion, and fear is temporary. You learn that peace does not come from control, but from acceptance. And once you've tasted that stillness, you begin to crave it, not as escape, but as home. So the monks practice silence not to separate from the world, but to return to it with clarity. They know that without silence, action becomes blind. Without stillness, movement becomes meaningless. And now, as you sit here, listening, breathing, maybe even feeling the rhythm of these words, let that quiet grow inside you. Let it remind you that silence is not something to fear. It is something to practice. Because when the mind becomes still, life begins to speak in a new language, the language of awareness. But silence alone is not enough. Every action must have meaning. Lesson 2: Purposeful living. After silence comes intention. In the monastery, every movement has meaning. Every word is chosen with care. Every breath is taken with awareness. Nothing is wasted, not even a moment. The monks live as if life itself were a sacred ceremony, simple, patient, and full of purpose. When they walk mindfully. Their feet touch the ground softly, like they are thanking the earth for carrying them. When they eat, they taste each bite with gratitude, never in a rush. When they speak, their voices are calm, never loud, never careless. Each action, no matter how small, becomes a lesson in attention. Purpose, they say, is not found in grand dreams. It is built in the way you live today. You don't need to travel far to find meaning. You only need to wake up to it. Most people move through life half awake, walking, talking, working, but without presence. Their minds live somewhere else, always jumping between past and future. They eat without tasting, speak without thinking, scroll without seeing. The monks call this living in emptiness, a life full of movement, but empty of meaning. But when you bring purpose to what you do, even the smallest act becomes beautiful. Cleaning a room becomes a practice of respect. Drinking tea becomes a reminder to slow down. Listening to another person becomes an act of love. Purpose doesn't depend on the size of the action. It depends on the depth of your attention. True discipline is not just about control. It is about connection. Connecting your thoughts, your actions, and your heart into one direction. It's the difference between moving and living. When you do something with intention, you feel alive in it. You are not lost in what's next. You are here, now, fully awake. The monks often say, do one thing, do it well. When they clean, they just clean. When they walk, they just walk. When they pray, they just pray. In our modern world, we try to do 10 things at once, and we lose ourselves in the noise. But the secret of mastery is focus. The more focused you are, the more peaceful you become. Think of your own life. How often do you rush? How often do you eat without noticing the taste, or speak without truly meaning your words? Purpose begins when you stop doing things out of habit and start doing them out of heart. Even studying English can be a meditation. You listen carefully, you repeat slowly, you enjoy the rhythm of the words, you don't chase speed, you seek understanding. That's purposeful learning. It's not about perfection, it's about presence. When life is lived with purpose, every day has direction. You no longer drift from one task to another, feeling tired and lost. You wake up with a reason. You move with clarity. You end your day with peace. And this kind of purpose doesn't need to be huge. It can be as simple as deciding, today I will speak kindly, or today I will finish what I start. Each small promise gives strength to your spirit. Each completed act of purpose shapes your character. The monks believe that when your actions lose meaning, your heart begins to grow heavy. But when your actions are aligned with your purpose, energy flows naturally. You don't have to force discipline anymore. It becomes your way of being. So, what gives your life meaning? Is it helping others? Learning something new? Becoming stronger, calmer, wiser? Whatever it is, hold it close. Let it guide your choices. Because purpose turns ordinary days into sacred time. The secret of purposeful living is simple. Be where your body is. When you walk, walk. When you speak, speak. When you rest, rest. Be there completely. In that full presence, life becomes lighter, softer, and more meaningful. And slowly, without realizing it, you begin to feel something deep inside, the quiet joy that comes from alignment, the peace that appears when everything within you moves in the same direction. This is how the monks live, not chasing meaning but creating it, in every step, every breath, every thought. But remember, purpose will always be tested. Life will try to pull you away with noise and comfort. And when that happens, you must choose again, the easy way or the meaningful one. But the greatest test of discipline comes when life tempts us to choose the easy way again. The test of temptation. There comes a moment in every disciplined life when the test appears. Not a test from outside, but from within. Quiet, simple, and dangerous. One evening in the monastery, after days of steady practice, silence, and purpose, a feeling begins to rise. It starts as a whisper. Why am I doing this? The mind grows restless. The body aches. The path that once felt clear now feels heavy. The monk looks out over the valley below, where the city lights shine in the distance. For a moment, those lights look like freedom. He remembers the comfort of the world, the taste of sweet food, the noise of laughter, the warmth of company. He imagines the ease of sleeping late, eating more, talking without restraint. A thought enters. Wouldn't it be easier to live like everyone else? That is temptation. Not evil, not wrong, but a choice between two worlds, comfort or growth. And every human being, no matter where they are, faces this same moment. You face it when your alarm rings at dawn. You face it when you promise to study but reach for your phone instead. You face it when you know what's right but choose what's easy. Temptation is the silent crossroad between your present self and your higher self. The monks teach that temptation is not your enemy. It is your mirror. It shows you where your weakness still lives, where your heart still clings to comfort. Without it, you would never grow. The test exists to reveal your strength, but in that moment, the choice feels heavy. The easy path glows like gold, soft, safe, familiar. The hard path looks dark and lonely, yet deep down, something whispers, freedom never comes from easy things. The monk breathes. He remembers his training, the discipline of silence, the power of routine, the meaning of purpose. He closes his eyes and watches the thoughts rise and fall like waves. The desire to quit, the wish for comfort, the voice of doubt, all appear, all disappear. Slowly, stillness returns. And with that stillness comes understanding. Temptation is only strong when the mind is weak. It loses its power when you stop believing its promises. because comfort always lies. It says, rest now, you'll work later. It says, just this once. But every just once builds a habit, and every habit builds a life. Most people don't fail because of one big mistake. They fail through 1,000 small surrenders. One skipped plan, one ignored goal, one delayed decision at a time. That's why discipline is not about saying no to joy. It's about saying yes to the joy that lasts. It's about choosing peace over pleasure, growth over comfort, your future self over your temporary feelings. Imagine two paths before you. One is soft, filled with cushions, screens, and distractions. The other is steep, narrow, and quiet. The first gives you pleasure now and emptiness later. The second gives you effort now and pride forever. Which one you walk determines who you become. The monk stays still as night deepens. His stomach growls, his back hurts, but his breath is steady. He does not run from desire, he lets it burn, then fade. He realizes something profound. Pain passes, but purpose remains. That is the secret of every strong person. They learn to wait, to stand still while the storm of temptation moves through them. They don't give up when it hurts. They understand that hurt is part of the lesson. And this test is not only in monasteries, it lives inside modern life too. It appears every time you open your phone instead of your book, every time you say later instead of now. You don't need mountains to find this test. Your mind brings it to you daily. But remember this truth. Every time you resist, even once, you grow stronger. Every no to comfort is a yes to your higher self. Every moment of discipline is a seed of freedom. Because discipline is not punishment. It's protection. Protection from regret, from chaos, from the pain of being controlled by your own impulses. When you choose the harder way, you are not losing anything real. You are gaining yourself. As dawn breaks, the monk rises for prayer. The city below still sparkles with its restless lights. But inside, he feels a different kind of brightness, a quiet fire, a peace that the world cannot offer. He smiles, not because the test is gone, but because he has learned to see it clearly. Temptation will always return, comfort will always call. But now he knows the truth. The voice of ease is loud, but the voice of wisdom is steady. And if you listen carefully, you'll always know which one to follow. The path of discipline will challenge you, tire you, and sometimes make you doubt everything. But when you keep walking, it rewards you with something deeper than pleasure, pride, freedom, and strength. Because each time you choose the higher path, something changes inside. The voice of weakness fades, the fire of purpose grows, and step by step, without realizing it, you begin to live not as a prisoner of desire, but as a master of your own mind. And when you choose the higher path again and again, something changes inside. The calm power. When the storm of temptation finally settles, something new begins to appear, not loud, not dramatic, but soft and steady, like the first light of morning after a long night. That light is peace. It is the quiet strength that comes when the mind listens, when thoughts obey, when actions follow intention. The monks call it the calm power. It is not the power to rule others, but the power to rule yourself. This calm does not mean life becomes easy. The world still moves fast. Challenges still come. But now, your mind no longer shakes at every noise. You stand firm like a mountain rooted in silence. Words that once hurt you lose their edge. Problems that once frightened you become lessons. You start to see that discipline was never about control. It was about harmony. In this harmony, thought, word, and action become one. You no longer say one thing and do another. You no longer dream without direction or speak without care. Every part of you moves in the same rhythm, and that rhythm feels natural, peaceful, yet powerful. Most people mistake chaos for life. They believe that constant movement means progress. But chaos is just noise wearing the mask of activity. Calm power is different. It is movement with purpose, energy with direction. It is knowing when to act and when to wait, when to speak and when to stay silent, when to push and when to let go. The monks live this truth every day. Their discipline has become invisible, not a struggle, but a way of being. They don't fight against their minds anymore. The mind has learned its place, like a river that flows within its banks. It still moves, but it no longer floods. It serves, it carries, it nourishes. That is what happens when discipline matures. It becomes grace. You no longer need to force yourself to do what's right. It simply feels right. The mind that once resisted now supports you. The habits that once felt heavy now lift you. And you begin to notice beauty in the simplest things. The rhythm of your steps, the sound of your breath, the pause between thoughts. Every moment feels connected, balanced, complete. You don't need more. You finally see that you already have enough. This calm power is not weak or passive. It is the strongest force there is because it cannot be taken from you. The calm person cannot be easily controlled, distracted, or broken. They move through the world with quiet confidence, not because everything is perfect, but because they are. For English learners listening to this, notice the feeling in each word: calm, steady, gentle, strong. These are not just words to understand, they are states to experience. Say them slowly in your mind. Feel how each one carries its own energy. This is how language, like discipline, teaches you awareness. When you master the mind, peace follows like a shadow. It walks with you in every situation, in work, in study, in love, in loss. You stop reacting to life and start responding to it. You stop searching for control outside and find balance inside. This is the quiet victory that monks discover, and it is open to anyone who is willing to practice. You don't need a mountain or a monastery. You need only the decision to live with awareness, to keep your promises, to choose peace over reaction. Because calm is not the end of the path, it is the beginning of true strength. From this calm place, you can act with clarity, love without fear, speak with truth, and live with balance. And once you've tasted that peace, you understand it was never missing. It was only buried under noise. You were not learning to create it. You were remembering it. The monk bows his head as the bell rings at sunset. The air is cool, the sky golden. Another day of quiet mastery ends, not with excitement, but with deep gratitude. This is the peace that discipline brings, not silence without sound, but harmony without struggle. And this peace is not only for monks, it is for you every day in every choice. Closing reflection. Take a slow breath. You've walked a long path, from noise to stillness, from confusion to clarity, from being controlled by your mind to gently guiding it. This journey began with distraction and doubt, but it ends with calm and understanding. You have learned that discipline is not about punishment or perfection. It is not about living a cold, strict life. It is about love, love for your future self. Every time you wake up early, every time you choose focus over comfort, every time you keep a small promise, you are saying to your future self, I care about you. That is what real discipline is. The monks taught us that peace is not given. It is trained. It grows in silence, in purpose, in patience. It grows in ordinary moments when you do the right thing, even when no one sees. The world outside is still loud, still fast, still demanding. But now, you know something the world often forgets. Peace begins inside. And the lessons you've heard are not just for the mountains, they are for life itself. You don't need to leave your city or your home to practice what you've learned. You don't need a monastery to train your mind. Every moment can be your temple. Every breath can be a meditation. Every choice can be an act of strength. Even learning English, the way you listen, repeat, and reflect, is a form of discipline. You sit in silence, you focus, you practice. That's not just language training, that's mind training. You're teaching your brain to be patient, to stay present, to believe in progress. You are already living the monk's way, one word, one step at a time. Remember how it all began, a restless world, full of distraction and noise. Remember how you discovered the rhythm of routine, the courage to face your inner battle, the healing power of silence, and the beauty of purpose. Remember how temptation came, and how choosing the higher path gave birth to calm. Each stage brought you closer to harmony, not a life without struggle, but a life with meaning. Now, as this story closes, take another deep breath. Feel how different your mind feels now. Slower, quieter, stronger. You don't need to force change anymore. You only need to continue choosing awareness, because discipline, once learned, becomes a friend that never leaves you. So, carry this peace with you, in your mornings, in your studies, in your relationships, in your moments of doubt. Let it remind you that you are capable of calm, capable of strength, capable of love that is steady and wise. Discipline is not the end of your journey. It is the beginning of freedom. And from this moment forward, may every breath you take become an act of mindfulness, every word you learn a step toward mastery, and every day a quiet reminder. You don't need a monastery to train your mind. Every moment can be your temple.